When you're alone and the house is quiet, your mind starts to fill in the silence. You think you hear footsteps upstairs, a voice behind a closed door, a shadow that moves just a second too late. But what happens when it's not your mind? Tonight's stories come from people who lived through those moments, the ones that don't make sense in the daylight, but feel all too real in the dark. Let's get into our first story. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a clean slate. When I signed the lease on the house at the end of that quiet cul-de-sac, it felt like the end of one chapter and the beginning of something better. After a brutal breakup and a job transfer, I needed something new, something quiet. The house wasn't perfect, but it had charm. 2 stories, old creaky floorboards, and a slightly outdated interior. But it was affordable, and most importantly, it was mine. The previous owners left it in decent shape, nothing a few light bulbs and some minor cleaning couldn't fix. That first night, I kept it simple. Just unpacked the essentials, took a hot shower, and planned to fall asleep watching TV, like I always did. Familiar routines bring comfort, especially in a place that still smelled like paint and dust. The shower felt good. The hot water eased the tension from a day of moving boxes and lifting furniture. Steam fogged the mirror and muffled the low sounds of the TV drifting in from the bedroom. I stepped out, dried off, and pulled on a pair of boxers and an old t-shirt. The hallway felt colder, and the dampness on my skin made me shiver. I padded into the bedroom, where an old Big Bang Theory rerun was playing. Laugh tracks echoed through the dim light. I grabbed the remote and turned the volume down to a whisper, just enough to hear, not enough to keep me awake. I put the remote on the nightstand and crawled under the comforter. The insulation in the house wasn't great, and the cold had a way of sneaking through the walls. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, watching the shadows move with the flickering light from the TV. My eyes grew heavier by the minute. That's when I heard it. A voice, soft and muffled, like someone whispering behind a wall. I opened my eyes and blinked. I looked over at the TV. Had I turned it down enough? The volume bar showed 3, practically nothing. Maybe it was just the actors' voices and my tired brain playing tricks on me. Then I heard another sound inside the room, a shuffle, a faint creak of the floor. Not from the TV, not from outside. It came from inside the bedroom. I didn't move, didn't breathe. My heart started pounding, slow at first, then faster. I kept the comforter up to my chin, but my right arm was hanging out of the covers, lazily draped over the side of the bed. That's when I felt it. Pressure on my hand, just the faintest touch, like someone gently placing their palm over mine. I froze. It wasn't the blanket, it wasn't the mattress shifting. It was a hand. Then it tightened. Fingers curled around mine. Firm, deliberate, human. I didn't move. Couldn't. My breath caught in my throat. Every muscle in my body screamed at me to do something, anything. But fear had me in a chokehold. I was awake. I knew I was awake. The room was cold. I could still hear the quiet murmur of the TV. My eyes were open. Someone's in the house. My mind raced. They think I'm asleep. They're checking to see if I react. It made sense. The grip wasn't violent, just testing, seeing if I'd move. Maybe they'd flee if I did, or maybe they wouldn't. I didn't have a weapon. My phone was across the room on the dresser, still charging. I couldn't scream. What if that made it worse? I had one shot. I was going to count to 3. On 3, I told myself, jump up, swing, use the element of surprise. I exploded out of bed. I screamed, swinging my fists, knocking over the lamp. The comforter tangled around my legs, but adrenaline kept me moving. The room was empty. I turned in a circle, checked the closet. Nothing. Dropped to the floor, looked under the bed. Nothing. I burst out into the hallway, flipped on every light, and ran through the house. Nobody. Not in the kitchen, not in the bathroom, not in the basement. Every door and window was still locked from the inside. I stood in the middle of the living room, heart racing. The house was dead silent now. The TV's automatic timer had shut itself off. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat on the couch with every light on, clutching a kitchen knife. When the morning light finally broke through the windows, I told myself maybe it was a dream, a vivid, terrifying nightmare. Stress, fatigue, and an unfamiliar house could do that to a person. That was until I went back upstairs to make the bed. The blanket was still thrown back from where I'd leapt out. And there, on the nightstand next to the remote, was a handprint. Not mine. Smaller, smudged, damp, as if someone had just been standing there, watching. If you thought that one was creepy, our second story actually gave me chills while making this video. So, let's get into it now. Here's a story from a viewer named Sam. You ever have something happen in your life that you just kind of lock away? Something you don't talk about because it doesn't make sense, and the moment you say it out loud, it becomes real? That's this story for me. It happened when I was 12, summer break. I lived in a tiny town in the middle of nowhere, like not even a gas station small. We didn't have any stores, no fast food, not even a decent stop sign. If you needed groceries, you had to drive 20 minutes into the next town over. That day, my mom and dad went to town for supplies. My little sister usually tagged along, but I remember being glad she was out of the house. I didn't say it then, but I was secretly planning to practice skateboarding inside. We had this long, narrow hallway with hardwood floors that connected the kitchen to the living room. Not ideal, but perfect for me to try some low-speed ollies and manuals without dealing with the cracked pavement outside. I knew if my parents found out, I'd be grounded, so I waited until their car disappeared down the dusty road. I grabbed my board, rolled back and forth for a bit, warming up. After a few tries, I managed to land a sloppy ollie. I went for another. I don't know what exactly happened, but I slipped back, and the edge of the board caught my foot wrong. My ankle folded, and I hit the floor hard. I laid there for a minute, cursing under my breath. It wasn't broken, but it hurt like hell. I dragged myself to the couch and decided skating was done for the day. I turned on the TV and flipped through until I landed on some old X Games videos. It felt like a decent consolation prize. The house was cool and quiet, the kind of stillness only a rural summer afternoon could give you. I had my foot propped up on a pillow, half zoning out. Then I heard something. A thump, then a shuffle, coming from upstairs. I turned the volume down. Nothing. A few seconds later, another noise, like someone moving around in one of the bedrooms. I leaned back and looked up the stairs. The staircase started in the living room, climbed up along the wall, and ended in a hallway that led to 3 rooms: mine, my parents', and my sister's. I didn't see anything. The bottom of the stairs was in the light, but the hallway above was pitch black. That's how the lights worked in our old house. There was a switch at the top and a switch at the bottom, but if someone turned them off upstairs, you couldn't flip them back on from downstairs. Old wiring or something. I figured my sister must have stayed home without me noticing. Maybe she went back to her room before our parents left. That had to be it. "Jess?" I called. No answer. I paused the TV and listened again. Nothing. I hobbled to the bottom of the stairs. My ankle still throbbed. I looked up into the dark hallway. "Jess, you up there?" Still no answer. I started up, one step at a time, using the rail for balance. The wood creaked under my weight. Halfway up, I saw movement. A shape, a figure, just standing at the end of the hall, in front of my sister's room. It was her, same size, same long hair. She wasn't doing anything, just standing there like she was listening. "Jess?" I called again. "What are you doing?" She didn't move. I took one more step. She ran, not away, not toward me, just across the hallway. From her bedroom to mine. I stopped cold, my whole body locked up. It didn't feel like a prank. It didn't even feel human. I turned and limped down the stairs as fast as I could. The pain in my foot was nothing compared to the panic flooding my chest. I burst out the front door and sat on the porch trying to catch my breath. I kept looking at the windows upstairs, waiting to see her face, but nothing happened. I told myself she was just messing with me, trying to scare me. That had to be it. About 10 minutes later, my parents' car pulled into the driveway. I stood up to meet them. My sister got out of the back seat, holding a bag of snacks and chatting with my mom. She had gone with them. She hadn't been home at all. I didn't say anything. Not then, not ever. I never told them. Never told her. I don't know what I saw that day, but I know it wasn't my sister. What you just heard were real stories. Memories that have lingered for years, etched into the minds of those who lived them. If you're still here with me, thank you. That means you're one of us. If you want more true tales like these, stories of gore, horror, and truth, hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel grow, and it makes sure you won't miss what's coming next. This is Night, narratives involving gore, horror, and truth. And remember, the scariest stories are the ones that could happen to you. Until next time, sleep tight.